So before we get started, I just want to remind everyone, just like with the Harry Potter boycott, there are ways to consume things without giving your money to them. And I know for some people, consuming it at all is bad. But I'm saying if you want to see this movie without paying for it, it's not like you have to go to a weird, shady website and do something illegal. You don't have to do that. You can legally watch things without breaking the law. It's not actually that hard. If you already pay for HBO Max, then someday you're going to have access to this movie. It's probably only going to be 2 months from now. And let me tell you guys, you're perfectly fine waiting for 2 months because this movie is really nothing to write home about. So if you don't want to support Ezra Miller, um, feel free to just skip this and don't go to the theaters. I kind of also want this movie not to do well financially because um, this is not the kind of movie that should be making money because this movie is bad, and I feel like they made it bad on purpose as a joke. I feel like they're trying to get like weird laughs out of people who enjoy bad movies or campy movies. Now the thing is, I really enjoy Spider-Man, like AKA Sam Raimi, uh, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Right? I enjoy those first two movies. I don't enjoy the third movie because there's a limit. Okay, there's a way to do campiness that's good and a way to do it that's really bad. And I think Spider-Man 3 with I almost said Peter Maguire, with Peter Parker dancing on like the tables at the nightclub that Mary Jane's singing at, and it just turns to this big like weird dance scene with like I don't get it. Um, Stuff like that is going too far. Now there's funny moments in Spider-Man 3, but considering the action is terrible, the villains are terrible. Like all three, like Sandman is a good villain, but Venom and Harry are just both done terribly, and almost everything involving the black suit is awful. Like they went too far with it, right? So there's a good way to do campiness, and there's a bad way. And when I watch Spider-Man 3, I don't watch it out of hate and go, "Oh, I love hating on this. I love how stupid this is." I don't do that, okay? I just watch it and I get disappointed because half of the movie is like a good movie and there's something good in there. There's like moments in this that's like this could have been a really good movie, but I think the powers that be tampered with Sam Raimi's vision too much, which happens all the time in superhero movies. I believe that's what happened with Suicide Squad, the original version. I believe that's what happened with some of Zack Snyder's work, especially as we know the original Justice League was tampered to holy hell and back. And when the Snyder Cut came out, it turned out it was much better. So, in my opinion, I just think that it's important to understand that just because something is campy doesn't give an excuse to be as stupid as possible. And like I said, there's many ways to watch this movie without paying for it. If you want to go down a certain route, Ezra Miller broke the law. If Ezra Miller is allowed to break the law, and what the law that Ezra Miller broke was far worse than whatever law you're gonna break. So I'm just saying. But if that's not what you want to do, and I understand, I don't encourage that. I don't encourage piracy. I almost never do it. Um, what I will say is there are ways to do things without it. You can again, if you rent a movie, that money is not going to Ezra Miller. If you rent a movie, that money is going to Redbox or whatever, right? You can rent a movie, you can buy a movie used, you can do things that aren't really giving money to Warner Brothers and Ezra Miller. And the best thing you can do is just wait for it to not be in theaters. That's the number one thing you can do. Moving on, let's actually talk about this movie because this movie is going to be one of those controversial movies that everyone has their own opinion about. I have no idea why there was such this push. Something was definitely going on behind the scenes to push telling other people to promote the Flash movie. Like, why was Stephen King and Tom Cruise talking about the Flash movie? Why were they talking about it? Just doesn't make any sense. They're trying to do this thing where they wanted to win over the Snyder fans while also winning over the classic Michael Keaton Batman and Tim Burton fans, while also trying to show everyone who doesn't like the Snyder movies, hey, it's not like those. It's a totally kooky new thing. And it's like, again, it's too much meddling. It's like, okay, so Spider-Man No Way Home worked really well because they brought back the old Peter Parkers and everyone loved it. And what else do people like? People like that Shazam is goofier and it's not as serious as the main DC movie, so let's make this movie sillier. And they did that push with the original Justice League. Let me tell you guys, if you were hoping that, because it's been a while since Justice League, right? What year did Justice League even come out? Let me look it up real quick. Okay, so Justice League came out in 2017, right? So it's been a good long while since the last movie with the Flash in it. And he's only been in one movie, right? He never got his own first movie. Okay, so this is the first movie. And the thing is that I've never seen the original Justice League. I've only seen the Snyder Cut. I've seen lots of clips of the original Justice League, and I think it's not controversial for me to say that one's better than the other. I think everyone has all that same opinion, so sorry that I didn't form my own opinion. I also didn't watch Morbius. I don't think I need to. Like, can we can I get a free pass on that one? Like, I don't think I need to watch Morbius. Like, I'm not watching terrible movies just so I can be like, oh, I've seen everything. Like, we know when something's bad. You can tell when something's bad just by looking at it, right? And so this is the first Flash movie I saw was the Snyder Cut. And let me tell you guys, this is not the sequel to the Snyder Cut. This is the first movie that features Batman and Wonder Woman and the Flash since Justice League. And it has confirmed a lot of people's greatest fears that Snyder Cut is not the canon movie moving forward, and the original Justice League is the canonical movie that we are supposed to believe that's what happened after Man of Steel and then Batman vs Superman and then Justice League, the trilogy. The one after that is Flash. The Flash is the fourth movie in the Snyder family of movies, but it's such a pseudo sequel. It's barely involved in that movie. Basically, those characters are in the movie for a little bit, but they're not in the movie after that again. Okay, once Ben Affleck Batman is done fighting in his scene, it's over. You don't get to see him for the rest of the movie. So all those moments from the trailer, that's just in the beginning of the movie. Now, I know some of you guys are like, don't spoil it, but I'm telling you, because if you want to go see this movie, don't go in with the expectation that Michael Keaton Batman and Ben Affleck Batman are going to team up, okay? Because it seems like that in the trailers. It's not how it actually is in the movie, okay? So just don't have that expectation at all. Instead, what we get is this weird hodgepodge movie that's like three movies in one, but they're all like shorts, and it feels very strange. So basically, eventually the Flash does go back in time, and I gotta say, it's completely dreadful. It's utterly dreadful. The jokes don't work. They're not funny. Nothing lands. It's kind of like when you watch Black Adam and how like the dialogue is just cringe and terrible the entire time. But with Black Adam, there's at least some elements to enjoy because the character Black Adam was somewhat interesting, and I wanted to know where they were going with this character, what direction it would go into. Um, and also, Doctor Fate was really cool. I cared more about Doctor Fate and Hawkman than I did about Black Adam, but there was elements there that was really interesting with those characters. And then with this movie, it's just the dialogue's terrible. The dialogue is trash, and you're just like, there's nothing there to enjoy. So eventually, we do get to Michael Keaton, and what I will say about Michael Keaton is that when he's wearing the old bat suit and he's actually acting in the bat suit, he's actually fighting people, not CGI. There are a lot of CGI moments with the Michael Keaton bat suit, and it is disappointing. It looks like shit. It doesn't look good at all. A lot of people online are pointing out how the Flash's visual effects look terrible. They're right. It doesn't look any better in the actual movie. If you think it looks awkward and video gamey and like not realistic at all, even when he's in slow motion, it looks really bad. My friend online said Sonic did it better, and and the funny thing is that the Sonic movie literally did have better looking slow motion, super fast visuals. Obviously, though, the best to do it is still X-Men Days of Future Past with the Quicksilver scene. But, and I'd say second best was probably the Snyder Cut version of The Flash. And this is one of the worst ones. Again, it's like we get this visual every single time there's a character in any movie with super speed. They did it with Sonic, they did it with Quicksilver twice, and now they're doing it with Flash twice. it's not that, it's like we've already seen it so many times, like, and it just kind of makes, they tried to have fun with it this time, but again, the campiness is too far in this movie. It's too silly. It's too dumb. And some people are thinking, like, I say that to my friends, like, oh, is it like Thor Love and Thunder bad? Because Thor Love and Thunder is so campy and silly and dumb. But I would say Thor Love and Thunder is like, it's this level of parody where it doesn't take itself seriously at all, and that's it ruins the movie. Whereas this is actually like, I don't know how to. I guess it is the same, but it's trying to be funny and it just doesn't work, And I feel like this movie is a parody of itself, even though it's a real superhero movie. And it's like, the comedy from these movies shouldn't be coming from that, because the Spider-Man movies are funny, but they have a very serious tone. Like, for example, when I don't I spoilers for No Way Home, but I'm assuming you guys have seen No Way Home by now. If you care about the Flash, you haven't seen No Way Home, click close on this video right now and watch that, because that's literally the movie you want to watch. You don't want to watch this. That movie is like a 9 out of 10 movie. This movie is like a fucking 4 out of 10 movie. Okay, so like, what are you doing here? But basically, when Aunt May dies, they don't just start immediately cracking jokes right after, right? Like that moment is played seriously for a long time. There's a lot of sadness and emotion that comes with Aunt May dying, and to be quite frank, a lot of people are talking about how Aunt May is being used because Ben Parker was already dead. But in the reality of things is that for Peter Parker, uh, Uncle Ben dies. Gwen Stacy's father dies, and Gwen Stacy's father was the closest thing that Peter had to a new father figure, and he was a cop who knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man, who trusted him and who protected him. Then we have Gwen Stacy herself dying. So tragedy and death always follows Peter Parker. It's not like a one-time thing where one guy dies and that's it. Really, what you could say is he not only did he lose Ben Parker, but he lost Iron Man, and now this is like his Gwen Stacy dying as well. Like, this is his second death that he's losing after he's already been Spider-Man for a while. That's the way I didn't interpret it the first time that way, but the reason why I'm thinking of it like Gwen Stacy is because Green Goblin killed Gwen Stacy, and now Green Goblin had killed Aunt May. And that's a new angle. We've never seen Goblin kill Aunt May, but it's at the same time it's treading old ground of Goblin killing someone important to Peter. So, Goblin killing Aunt May was a really good decision, and it was played up very seriously. It wasn't just a stupid little thing. This movie is lacking any serious depth. The Guardians movies are the same. Where anyone you've seen any Guardians movie, they have serious moments and they have funny moments, right? And the movie works because it handles both tones expertly. When you watch a Guardians movie, a lot of people go into it thinking they're just supposed to laugh. And that's why they say 2 and 3 aren't as good as the first one. And it's like, no, because you're supposed to go into it knowing 1 made you sad too. You just don't remember. You're supposed to go in knowing that you're going to feel sadness, but you're also going to laugh. Like, you go to those movies to be hurt, but also to be built back up. That's the point of Guardians of the Galaxy. It's not just to be funny, okay? It's all 3 of them are supposed to be sad and funny, and Flash is lacking that depth. There's fake sadness and fake tragedy, like Flash thinking about his mom and whatnot, but because this character has no time to breathe, and there's no, like, we don't spend any time, like, I don't know his mom's name. I don't know his dad's name. I don't care about these characters. You have to build them up. They have no build up at all in the Justice League or this movie, because there's not enough movies to do a more introspective Flash movie with. So instead, this movie exists just to explore the DC multiverse, and I'm sorry, but it sucks. The DC multiverse sucks. With Spider-Man, they kept things down to only the Spider-Man movies, and that's because otherwise you have to include like the X-Men movies and like Blade or something, right? Like there's just not enough movies to do all of those things. Whereas with DC, there's movies throughout a long history of time, but then they also have like alternate universe DC stuff in there, like movies that never happened, movies that never came to be. And it kind of reminds you of like when Doctor Strange came out, people were like, "Oh, Tom Cruise should play Iron Man." And it's like, Why? Why? Because they're like, oh, because it'd be like such a love letter to the fans, and it's like enough with the love letter to the fans thing. Having Xavier be played by Patrick Stewart was probably a good call because he's probably never gonna play Xavier ever again. Logan was the last time, and he's not going to be in any of the newer X Men movies with the younger X Men, and those movies are done now anyway. So Xavier's done. Like Patrick Stewart is too old to keep acting like this, and so Doctor Strange was a good way to have him do like one last time, basically, and that was perfectly fine. But a lot of people with their weird fan demands for Doctor Strange, as well as their weird fan edits of Endgame, where the non-Marvel Cinematic Universe characters show up, like the other Spider-Mans and like the X-Men and stuff. It just doesn't make sense, obviously, because none of them know Captain America and Iron Man. None of them know who Thanos is, so why would they care to fight in that fight? It just doesn't make any sense. But also, it just has weird, implications about the multiverse. And so, what we know about the multiverse from the Marvel side of things is that King the Conqueror has a lot of different diversions in the multiverse, and there's different versions of Loki from different timelines, and there's different Spider-Mans from the movies, but there's also different Doctor Stranges, and that's the point. The point is that the multiverse isn't just other movies. Only the multiverse isn't just the what if stuff from the Marvel like Disney Plus show. The multiverse is like literally anything and everything. If you want to do another alternate version of a character, sometimes it's the same actor, sometimes it's a new or different actor. Just we don't know. So it's more interesting the way Marvel's doing it versus with DC doing it. They're just kind of like, here's other movies that are from a lot longer ago, including actors that are dead now. So I don't know. It just didn't work for me at all I can say is again, the Michael Keaton stuff is good. For those of you who are worried that Supergirl is going to be the same actress and appear in other movies, um, that whole thing with Supergirl, which was taken right out of the Flashpoint comics, um, that was again one of the more interesting things about this movie. Batman and Supergirl were far more interesting than most other things about this movie, but having Zod there, was just there. Not only was Zod just there with no rhyme or reason, but there is another villain that shows up, and a lot of people kind of called this and saw it coming. But there is another villain that showed up, and he kind of just is there again, like. And that's the problem with this movie is there's no build up to anything at all. So the only thing that has any emotional weight is the Michael Keaton Batman stuff because us fans like those old movies. That's it. And it feels less like Spider-Man No Way Home and more like Ghostbusters Afterlife, where the whole point is you're just seeing something there just to be there, right? Even like Star Wars Episode 7, the way they handled Harrison Ford felt more integrated than this stuff, where this stuff, the cameo-ness of it all is just so distracting. And these movies keep happening. Like there's a Terminator movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger is in like every Terminator movie, but there's also a Terminator movie with like the original Sarah Connor actress. I forgot her name. I'm sorry, but like the original Sarah Connor's in the movie, and it's just like this old man, this old woman running around. It's like not that I hate old people and I don't think old people should be in movies or anything, but use them respectively and use them effectively. Harrison Ford is still a damn good actor. So when you see him in Blade Runner, like the sequel Blade Runner, and when you see him in Star Wars Episode 7, he's doing a good performance. He's doing good line delivery. He's very convincing as an actor. He's such a good actor that he's still going to be good even at this age. So it's a lot different when you throw Harrison Ford into the mix of a movie and you're entertained and loving it. And that's the thing about Star Wars Episode 7. If you've never watched Star Wars, and I would show 7 to people who never watched it, because Harrison Ford is that good of an actor and that charming of an actor, I showed Star Wars Episode 7 to 2 people who have never seen a Star Wars movie, and the only ones they saw, actually I saw it 3 people, and I showed them Episode 7 and no other Star Wars movie, and they came out of it loving it on the other side. Instead, it makes them want to actually watch the old ones. And they said they were very compelled by Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher as Han Solo and Princess Leia, and they want to know more about them. And those characters are so good that it made them more interested in Kylo Ren. Okay? That says a lot about having good actors in your movies. You can't just bring back any old actor and expect it to work. I can thankfully say that Michael Keaton is still up there with Harrison Ford. Michael Keaton was also in Spider Man. He was in Spider Man Homecoming as the Vulture, and he is probably my favorite Marvel villain to this date. And I would say a lot of people have noted that William Dafoe is probably like literally the best Marvel villain they've done. And that is kind of a meme, but it's not like untrue. Like William Dafoe is so good in Home or in No Way Home. It's actually incredible. It really does to him. He's like it feels like he's just like okay, if Green Goblin had to come back one more time, I'm going to take it seriously because he really loves the role. He really embraced being Norman Osborn, and his version of Norman Osborn is so iconic. It redefined Norman Osborn's crazy side, basically. And yeah, what they did with Green Goblin in No Way Home is phenomenal, and a lot of people point out how William Dafoe did such a good job. I think Michael Keaton's Vulture is right up there because the character was written so well. It was crazy when you start watching Spider-Man: No Way Home. The villain is so much more compelling and so much more believable, and then the whole twist with him being the father of Liz Allen. I mean, that's just incredible. Like, I'm sorry, but they decided that Spider-Man: Homecoming was going to be a knockout of the park. They knew that this Spider-Man movie was up against giants. They knew that people really loved the Sam Raimi movies, and if you don't do it right, people will turn on it, just like how they turned on the Amazing Spider-Man movies. No one liked those movies, and obviously I know some people did, but everyone liked Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi more. So you have to go all out with these Spider-Man movies, or else people are going to shit on them, and it's going to make all of Marvel look bad. Some people shit on them no matter what because they just like Sam Raimi either way, but thankfully that first Homecoming movie was just a knockout of the park, and Michael Keaton was a big help for that. Michael Keaton is still a really good actor, but it doesn't help when the movie is written so poorly and the visuals look like shit, and Michael Keaton is only in it for like a third of the movie, okay? And I know Michael Keaton is being used in the advertising like crazy. I am telling you, he is only in the movie for like a third of the movie, okay? So, that being said, there's another movie in theaters right now about multiverses that deserves your money. If you're thinking about watching Flash, I implore you to watch Across the Spider-Verse instead. And I know what a lot of you are thinking. Hey, I like superhero movies. I already watched Across the Spider-Verse. Watch it again. Go watch it a second time. Your time will be spent so much better watching it a second time. I know some people like live action and don't like animation. I get that. But we're talking about a movie that's really well written, that's really well done, where the plot makes a lot of sense, where the characters are written very masterfully and beautifully, and every little decision happens for a reason, has a purpose. You can think about the story and talk about the story with your friends. You can compare it to the first movie. You can't do any of that stuff with The Flash. The Flash is barely holding on by a string. The Flash is barely even a movie. You know, the whole critique of superhero movies that they're just roller coaster rides. It's not any more true than now. This is the most true it's ever been. I think the actor for Zod, maybe I shouldn't say this because I didn't fact check it, but basically people are describing this movie as taking action figures from different movies and making them hit together, and that's it. It's not really a story. It's just an excuse to show cool things, but the cool things look like shit. So okay, so like if you want an excuse to do something cool, make sure the story is good, and make sure the visuals look good. And like with Spider-Man No Way Home, the villains were all very, very compelling, and the fact they brought back the villains, like they didn't do that for this. There's no Jack Nicholson Joker in this movie, you know. There's no Danny DeVito Penguin, you know. There's no Arnold Schwarzenegger Mr. Freeze, even though I know it's not Michael Keaton. I'm just saying, there's lots of characters they could have brought back, but only bringing back Zod is not the same as what No Way Home did. No Way Home brought back literally all five villains. Of course, we know Lizard and Sandman were just CGI, they didn't have the actual actors. And boy, does it look like shit when the villains turn into their human forms, and it's literally using scenes from the movies they were in, which is the worst way they could have done it. They should have just kept them as CGI the entire time or something. But the whole point was that they needed to like deform, you know. But they should have paid for the actors to come back for like one day or something. Like I don't know what happened here. I don't know why they didn't get the original actors. They probably would have done it. I don't get it. The only villain that didn't, or Harry Osborn didn't come back, but James Franco is like in hot water, and also you didn't really need him to come back because if Norman Osborn turns good again, then there's no need for Harry to turn evil in the first place. And Topher Grace as Venom didn't return. Probably a good decision. Because you can't just drop Venom in like this. I think that they're probably not going to do Electro or Green Goblin or Doctor Octopus in the Marvel Spider-Man version of movies. So I think bringing them back for alternate versions was fine. However, there's a real chance they might do Venom again. A very real chance they might do Venom again. So it makes sense to save him and not do him for later. But my point is that they brought back like every villain. Now I am kind of just bringing up points that don't matter at this point. That's usually how you know my video is about to be wrapped up and done here. But again, like I almost made a review for Spider-Man, but I didn't because when I think about Spider-Man, and I'm talking about Spider-Verse, not Homecoming or not No Way Home or whatever. The thing about Across the Spider-Verse is that it's just good. It's just a 10 out of 10 movie. Like literally go watch it. Like it's a perfect movie with no flaws. And I know some people say, well, there is one flaw, and that's the ending. And I say, no, because I promise you, once we get to the next movie, obviously, if the third movie is a shit show and somehow has the worst ending ever, then that does make a big difference. However, as long as it's a good movie, then this is going to be a very solid trilogy of three really good movies. So yeah, let's just so yeah, in my opinion, Across the Spider-Verse is a 10 out of 10. It's amazing. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen animation wise. So go watch that one. Don't watch The Flash. The Flash, first of all, this movie needs to flop, okay? We need to send a message to say stop making movies bad on purpose. You know, stop cynically making these shitty movies. And also, it was marketed as a timeline reboot. It is not a timeline reboot. So there you go. That being said, I'm going to end this one here, and I'll see you guys on the next one.